This is the second time I've worked on this assignment since I'm on two different paths. And the first time I did it, I talked about my Toastmasters mentor, who some of you know is Guy Ferry. And so I'm not decided I wasn't going to repeat that. Instead, I want to talk about some gentlemen who are absolutely not marauders at all, but who helped me through my naval career. Now, those of you who have been in the Navy or are in the Navy, I don't see our naval officers here today, but at any rate, you know you don't get very far without people helping you along. And very often these are people that want you to succeed, and they give you the tools that you need to do the job that you have and to move on. And I want to talk about a few of those folks in my life during my naval career. Now, my first tour after Officer Candidate School was to Guam. That's a speech in itself, but Guam is good. And there I was immediately assigned as an oceanographic duty officer to my first mentor, whose name is Bill Schramm. And Bill made sure that I knew the ropes, I knew what to do, I knew how to interact with the other officers in the wardroom there. And he went to bat for me and kept me protected from the front office whenever I got in trouble with them. And over a period of about a year or so, a year and a half, I guess, during the time we served together, I learned a lot from him, and I learned how to operate as a naval officer. Well, he moved on, and quite honestly, our paths never really crossed again professionally, even though we maintained a friendship to this day. But he was perhaps my first true mentor. Now, my second true mentor, also a naval officer, he was a lieutenant commander, and I was a lieutenant junior grade at the time when I first came back to Monterey. And he also was running the watch, the charge of the people that stood the watch. And anytime that a naval officer goes to a new station that has a watch bell, I can guarantee you're going to stand the watch. And so it was with me. And he taught me about watch standing and how to operate and here at Fleet Numerical for the watch standing that we did here. And that was fine. About a year later, he moved on and I got another job. The way you got off the watch bell in those days here in Monterey was you made yourself more important in another area of the work. And once you did that, then you were obviously needed more off the watch bell than on it. And so that's how I got off the watch bell. Well, after about a year, this gentleman, Harry Nicholson, moved to Hawaii at what was then Fleetweather Central Pearl Harbor. And so for the next 3 years, I didn't really have a mentor in the same way. But at the end of my first 4-year tour in Monterey, I too got orders to Fleetweather Central Pearl Harbor. And when I went out there, I was a department head, and I reported to the executive officer, who was, yes, Harry Nicholson, my very first mentor here in Monterey. So he continued to mentor me, and he like my previous mentor that I mentioned, Bill Schramm, took care of me both professionally and personally, made sure that I was taken care of as a junior officer. And on Guam, Bill Schramm and his family always had me out for meals, made sure I was taken care of during the holidays and so forth. And Harry Nicholson, as executive officer, he had to get tough with me a couple of times when I didn't really follow what I thought were the rules. And they weren't the same rules as they were in Monterey. And I had to get used to the fact that, well, however, I really needed to show up to work earlier than I did in Monterey. And so he was very kind in his criticism of me. And to this day, I can still remind him of that. As it turns out, both Bill Schramm and Harry Nicholson went on to become a Navy captain. And in Harry Nicholson's case, he was commanding officer of Fleet Numerical here in Monterey, but I was at Pearl Harbor at that time. And I'm happy to say they both retired here in the Monterey area. And to this day, we have lunch once a month. In fact, this past Wednesday, I had lunch with those two gentlemen. It's just such a thrill once a month to go and chat with these two folks that my mentor. And they're in their late 80s now. It's going to be tough when they go, and hopefully I don't go before them, but it's going to be tough when they do go. So moving along through my career, I was active duty for 25 years, and eventually I had to retire. And I got to a point where they going to move me somewhere I didn't want to go. And my options were either to move or retire. So I retired. And that enters my third mentor, who was a Navy captain, and his name is Bob Plant. Now, at the time, Bob Plant was the chief of staff, which is the second in command of our headquarters in Mississippi. And the head of that headquarters was an admiral. And the day that I retired, actually, I had been discussing possibly coming back as a civilian, but there was a rule that said you could not, a military officer could not return and become a member of the federal government, working for the federal government, for at least 6 months after you retired as a naval officer. Well, that particular day that I retired, a message came out from on high saying, we're going to waive that rule for 6 months, see if we can't draw some Navy talent into the civilian corps in the Navy. And that hurdle required some operation from our headquarters. And the chief of staff, of course, was my mentor I'm talking about now by the name of Bob Plant. And so he basically was able to move the hurdles out of the way, and I got the job, and I basically came back as a civilian into the same job that I was doing as an officer, although that job changed quite a bit over the next 15 years of my civilian career. Now, my final mentor that I want to talk about is also a Navy captain, and he was also commanding officer of Fleet and Miracle one of the times when I was there. His name is Jack Jensen. Jack and I were friends going back to my days on Guam. He was the best man at our wedding. He was the detailer that gave me orders to the USS Enterprise, sent me to sea. And he helped me get that civilian job here at Fleet and Miracle when I retired as a military officer. And without him in charge, I never would have gotten that job. Unfortunately, Jack passed away 2-3 years ago, and I miss him dearly. But these four gentlemen, in the course of my naval career, made it possible for me to have a successful naval career. And I was really pleased to have them. And I hope that all of you, as you go through your careers, those of you who haven't already retired, have similar people in your lives that can help you and that you can help people coming up under your tutelage. Madam Toastmaster.